Okay, welcome to our first Play Posit. Um, this is just a presentation about college. You'll see what the goals are for it in a minute, and I'm going to talk about the whole unit. So bear with it. Don't forget that if you're going to do this over a long period of time, please pause, but don't log out. If you log out of this, you may have to start over and do the whole thing. Make sure you answer the questions as you go, answer correctly. You'll get points based on if you answer the questions correctly or not. You can back up, back the video up, but you can't skip forward when you're doing this. If you have any questions, if there's any problems, please just email me through Canvas. Okay, so let's get started here. So the whole unit is called What's Next? Thinking About Life After High School. That's where we're started. Um, it's a good place to start because this entire class is to prepare you for college and the types of writing you're going to do in college. So the first piece of writing we'll do is to get you into college. And we're going to do that by thinking about college. So this is just college all the way around. For the entire unit, what our aims are to get you to reflect upon and or create goals for next year, whether it's going to college, whether it's joining the workforce, whether it's going to a trade school, anything you want. But we just want to get you to start thinking about these things. Hopefully you will increase your knowledge of just college, the college you wish to attend, or the career that you hope to have, military, whatever it is. We just want you to have more information about that. There'll be an assignment that will help you with that. I'm also hoping to give you some more information that will be helpful in this presentation. Students will reflect upon your own characteristics that will aid you in your goals that you have for next year, whether it's getting to college or whatever. Students will write a personal statement, or if you're not going the college path, then there's a different option you have for the final writing assignment that is to answer job interview questions. And I take interview questions that are really very standard types of questions, and I've gotten them a ton in the interviews I've done. They're just standard questions. We still give these questions to people who try to apply for jobs at Marina. So it's good practice if you take it seriously. Okay, and we'll try to give you some advice on how to answer those questions in a way that's convincing. And the main thing here is using narrative as evidence. Don't just tell them that you're a hard worker. Give them evidence of that by telling a story about a time that you worked hard. And you're going to want to tell a real story, but because they can tell if you don't. But that is so much more convincing than just saying, "Yeah, I'm a hard worker." Well, who's going to believe you? Everybody says that, right? And then finally, students will improve their personal narrative writing skills. So teach you how to write a story about yourself in a way that grabs people's attention. So those are the goals for the unit. We're starting with the presentation, which will just get you thinking about college. Okay, so is college right for me? It may or may not be. I don't think college is for everyone. I think it's great, but I think you can have a very successful life without college as well. So where am I getting my information from? There's a film called The Ivory Tower. This came out quite a few years ago. It is a documentary that really explored the debt that people would get into when attending college, and was it really worth it to get into all of that debt? Did it pay off in the end? And then they talked about some alternative colleges, different types of colleges you can go to. And then when I was starting to teach ERWC, I found this Consumer Reports in the supermarket, and I grabbed it. This is a little bit out of date at this point. The student debt is now up to 1.5 trillion. So, and 200 billion might not sound like a large number, but it's gone up a lot. So those are the two, and there's one other article I think I cite. So just so you know where I'm getting my information from. So one of the biggest things you want to talk about is money, paying for college. Yeah, college is expensive, and it's getting more and more and more expensive every single year. It's absolutely insane in some colleges, hundreds of thousands of dollars. In some colleges, you'll spend $500,000 getting, a piece of paper that says that you went to a certain college. Since 1980, state funding has gone down while 40% down 40%, while tuition has gone up 230. And these are old numbers. It's gone up even more now. It's continuing to climb. I'll show you a chart in a second. In the last decade, colleges have doubled their debt. Now, why are they going into so much debt? So I went to UC Davis, okay, and I graduated in '01. It was a long time ago. When I went back, I don't know, 10 years later, I didn't even recognize the college because everything was new. They had a new state of the art performance center. They had completely new football stadium, new swim pool, stadium, like super, like state of the art, Olympic size, all the everything. Um, the buildings were completely different. Like they are constantly tearing down uh, the old buildings and building up just massive new buildings. Um, they're building new apartments all over the place because the tuition has doubled since I've been there, since I graduated from there. So it's almost like they're rebuilding the entire college. That costs hundreds of millions of dollars. So, where do they get the money from? Well, they have large donors, and then they keep pumping up the price of tuition, right? Uh, so that's a huge problem. On top of tuition being larger, the grants and scholarships are down. So your Pell Grant in 1977, when I was born, do the math, um, would give you 116% of tuition. In 2012, old numbers, it's probably less now. It gives you 42%. So it costs more, you're getting less out of grants. And if you look at, especially recently, um, how much inflation is making costs go up. So we have food, yeah, the price of food is going up. Price of healthcare is going up even steeper. But look at college. Um, whereas some foods are gone up 200% or more since 1980, we're talking 1,120%. So it's just skyrocketing. It's getting insane if it's not already there. I've updated the numbers for this year. If we're looking at University of California, and some of these numbers are kind of estimates because we don't know exactly how much living off campus is going to cost you. It's kind of an estimate of the apartment costs, right? But if you're looking at 14,000 for tuition fees, that's actually not a huge increase from last year. Books and supplies, the books are so expensive, right? This actually has gone up a lot from last year. Health insurance, room and board, and it's much more expensive to live on campus. It's much more convenient as well. I lived on campus for 1 year at UC Davis, had to ride my bike the next year, took a lot longer to get there. You can also, pay for a parking pass, but that's like $1,000 or more a year. It's crazy. Um, so total cost, you're looking at somewhere around 36, 35,000 per year, right? So if you get out in 4 years, and a lot of people don't, that adds up, right? Really fast. I mean, you're over $100,000, right? Cal State's a little bit better. You're looking at around maybe 20 grand. This is if you live with your parents. And all the Cal States are different. This is Cal State Long Beach. If you live on campus, if you live off campus, um, it's cheaper, but it's not that much cheaper. It used to be a lot more. Now, let's compare that to going to Golden West. And as far as I know, I could be wrong, but I think the Golden Promise is still happening where first and second year students get free tuition and not room board, sorry, books. I don't know if California is still funding that, but it started in, I want to say 2018. And that's if you stay in school first time, college, that kind of thing. So it's an option. We're going to get to different options in a second. Um, but that's a really good question. Like students want to go to the best schools. I want to go to Harvard or Yale or whatever it is. I don't want to go to Golden West, right? It looks bad. It doesn't look bad. I went to Golden West. I did not do well I went to Marina High School, first of all. Wasn't a great student, but I took 4 years of math and 4 years of science and, did what I was supposed to do, 4 years of a language. But I had like I don't know, 2.6 or something. I wasn't getting in to really anywhere. So Golden West took a while, 2.5 years. but was able to get my act together coming out of Golden West. I had maybe I don't know, 3.2, something like that. But you have to consider that it's college. And if you take college classes compared to a high school GPA, it's 1 point higher, right? So if I got all B's in all my classes and they were all AP, that'd be a 4.0. So if I had a 3.2 in college, that would be like a 4.2 in high school, right? If that makes any sense. So, I did pretty well, got mostly B's, got some A's and C's, failed chemistry a few times, but, uh, made it out. They accepted me into UC Davis. Um, if I had a 3.2 in high school, there's no way you're getting into Davis. Heck, a 4.2 won't get you into Davis nowadays. But out of Golden West, I did okay. Um, and all they see is they don't see that you went to Golden West, right? The only job interview I know of that actually checks your transcript is like if you're applying to be a teacher at a high school. Like we check transcripts, but who does that? But we'll look at all your grades. But in any case, so the point is, most people think like 30% of respondents to this survey think that where you get your degree is very important to business leaders. And only 9% of business leaders consider where a job applicant went to school to be very important. 84% thought that it was the amount of industry knowledge that the person possessed was the most important or very important. And the candidate's job skills at 79%. I would think that would be first. But there's a disconnect between what people think is true for getting a job and what is actually true. Do do people really care where you graduated from? Some jobs they might, right? There's no question that it's some jobs they might, but there's a large number of jobs out there that you can get where as long as you have a degree, it doesn't matter where you got it from. They're really more interested in if you're going to work hard and follow directions and do what you're supposed to do. Um, all right, so let's talk about debt. Americans owe $1.5 trillion in student loans, more than credit card debt, which is at, I don't know, 900 something billion. Um, so it's a ton. And sometimes you have to do it. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's things to be aware of. So first is the interest, right? People think, oh, I'm taking a $128,000 loan. Well, you don't owe $128,000. You owe $152,000. If you take out $72,000 loan, you owe $90,000. If you take out 10,000, you're like, oh, it's nothing, right? You owe over double what your so the less you take out, the more you owe. You can owe $23,000 for a $10,000 loan. Can you borrow the 10 grand from your parents? I don't know. Maybe get it interest free. Monthly payments are generally about 10% of your loan. So if take out 23,000, move to 0, 1, 2, you're paying, is that 230? That's not much. Let's see. Boom, boom. Yeah. So you take out $128,000 loan, you're paying $1,280, a month. Okay, that's a little bit more, but for that's like 10 years, right? So just be aware of that. That's good to know. $90,000 loan, about 1,000 a month. um, Another thing that students aren't aware of a lot of times, uh, if you own a small business and you go under, like it, goes out of business, or big business for that matter, you file for bankruptcy, right? There's all kinds of protections. You don't have to pay off a bunch of your loans, right? Uh, you're not going to completely ruin your life. In fact, a lot of businesses will file for bankruptcy and then rebuild and then be able to just keep going, right? Some companies have filed for bankruptcy many, many times. You can't do that. There's no protections when you can't pay your student loan debt. So what happens to you instead of kind of being forgiven for a lot of it and then being able to start over or whatever is you go into default. So after 90 days of not being able to pay, or sorry, of going into default, your credit rating drops, which makes it harder to get a loan, buy a house, apply for credit cards, that kind of thing. After 270 days, sorry, that's if you stop paying your bills. After 270 days, you go into default, which all of a sudden is a no forgiveness plan. You can't they don't give you any help. Now, there's been a little bit of change in that recently. There's some politicians that are trying to give students the ability, more forgiveness, but it depends on who's in charge, right? It lowers your credit score again. All of a sudden, not only you having to pay back your loan and interest, but now you have to pay collection fees, which means the people that come out and try to collect the money, you have to pay for that service that you don't even want. You don't want people coming and banging on your door saying, "Hey, give me money." You have to pay for that. You don't get any tax returns. So if you were taking out all these taxes, money for taxes, and you're hoping to get some money back, you're going to get none back. And the government will actually start, or whoever it is, private company, whoever you borrowed from, will start going in and taking money from your paycheck. So you won't even get your paycheck anymore. You get 15% of your paycheck garnished, or and you get sued by the federal government. And your interest rates go up. Like, it's insane. Like, if you're in trouble, we're going to make it so it's impossible for you to get out. That's the system. So you have to be really careful when you're going into taking out loans. Okay. So you're like, "Oh, Mr. Kramer, you trying to convince us not to go to college?" No, I'm trying to make you smart about going to college and paying for it, right? You need to know these things because you don't want to get into that situation. So what can you do? Well, you can do some things now that will actually really help. Um, and I'm not trying to sell anything. Like, call this number. No, actively search and obtain as much free money as possible. And you're like, where am I going to find free money? Under the couch? No. Fill out the FAFSA. Okay, there's a link right there. Fill it out, and there's websites you can go to on FAFSA.ed.gov. There's a government website, and you'd be amazed at how much free money is just flowing out there. Like, every year, billions of dollars go, millions, billion, a large number of money just goes unclaimed. People are trying to give money away, and you can't give money away. People don't want it, right? They don't want to take the time to go look for it. Also, you can get estimates on your loans and how much things will cost and all that kind of stuff. These are two websites where you can get information on that. Borrow as little money as possible. So try again, search for that free money, grants and scholarships. Ask your parents, even if you can get the money back to them, even if they can't afford the whole amount. If you can get 10 grand from them, that's 10 grand less you have to pay on a loan, right? You can work. I worked a little bit in college. It's doable. It's best to focus on college as much as you can, but it is possible. Choose a less expensive school. Do you need to go to Harvard or Yale? You might, right? Your parents are paying for it. Great. They're forcing you to go there. Tell them to pay for it. But, community college might be a good route. Not that everyone should go to community college. There's plenty of people that don't take this the wrong way. That should definitely go right to a 4-year. But is that going to make things more doable? Is it going to make your life a lot easier once you get out of college, right? And this is one I never thought about because I took 6 years to graduate. But if you graduate in 4 years instead of 6 years, you would have 40% less loans because you pay for every year you go to college. You don't pay a certain amount for a degree. If you go to college for 6 years, you're paying 6 years, it's 2/3 more, right? Than you would have. So, or 1/3 more. But you're paying a lot more money to do that. So don't do that if you can. I had no idea what I was doing. I changed my degree like 5, 6 times. So, when she changed from math to English, I changed from math to English. Then, you got to retake a lot of classes. You got to start over again. It's like I'm 2.5 years into college. I got to start over again. But, it worked out. Don't borrow more than your expected starting yearly salary. If you're going to be an English teacher for high school, don't go to Harvard and work up a $500,000 loan. It's going to be hard to pay off, right? And this is huge. You're like, "Oh, well, I know how much I'm going to pay. I'm taking out a $20,000 loan." No, that's not how much you're going to pay. On these websites, especially the government websites, if you get a federal loan, which you should, compared to a private loan. We'll talk about that. They have price calculators that will tell you exactly not only how much total you're going to owe, but what your monthly payments will look like. And then you could take a look at, okay, my monthly payment for my uh, college is this, and my rent is this, and my food, you can kind of figure out, am I going to be able to afford to live in Huntington Beach? Right? Or do I need to go back and live with my parents? They'll be so excited. Uh, know the details of your scholarship. Monthly payments. When do I need to start paying? Sometimes I give you a certain amount of time to find a job, like after you graduate or whatever it is. Um, how much do I have to pay without accruing more debt? That kind of stuff. And then avoid private loan. Private loans are out to get you. Okay, the federal loans. And I know this is a time where nobody trusts the government, right? The federal loans have more protections. They have more options. They're just more friendly as far as not trying to destroy your life. So just keep that in mind if you can. And this one, I really wish somebody would have mentioned this. When you get a credit card bill, it's the same thing as your student loan bill. There's essentially two or three things you can pay. You can pay the full monthly amount that you're supposed to. You can pay more than that if you want. You can write in how much you want to pay. Or they have this line that says minimum payment. And people think, oh, well, I'll pay that. That's the minimum amount I'm allowed to pay without, incurring extra debt. That's not true. It's very tricky. So students will pay the minimum debt every time, the minimum payment. What you don't know is that's the minimum amount you can pay without someone saying, hey, you're not paying your bills. But when you pay that amount, they tack on extra money because you didn't pay the amount you're supposed to pay. And a lot of times it's very small. You're supposed to pay $1,800 and you pay 180 is the minimum. Oh, cool! I'm paying 180. Yeah, but next time instead of 1,800, now you owe like 3,500 or something. More than you were supposed to owe if you just add it up. So all of a sudden you're paying the minimum. A couple of years later, you have like 100,000 in debt, and you're like, well, what is happening? Why do I, And all of a sudden people are banging on your door to get money, and you don't know what's going on because you're like, no, I paid my bills. I paid the minimum payments. Okay, never do that. Right? I just saved your life. You're welcome. Okay. So what else? Let's look at the job market. You should find a job. I know everyone says this, that you enjoy doing. You're going to do it for 40 years, 35. You really want to be miserable for that amount of time. I know people who are. They make everyone miserable around them. Right? You might have parents who are like that. So yes, you want to do something you like. However, you need to pay the bills. So, sometimes you have to pick and choose. I get the job I want, but I don't live in Southern California because it's too expensive. Move to Texas, like everybody else. You can't have everything. Maybe I take my second choice. It pays a little more. I still enjoy it. It's still fun. Um, and how do you know that you're going to like the job anyway? Um, Talk to someone in the field. Ask them. Number one question: what part of the job do you hate? What is the least favorite part of your job? It usually has nothing to do with what you think you're going to be doing, but a lot of times you end up doing that more than anything else. Ask any teacher, what's the part of the job you hate? It's not teaching. Teachers love teaching. It's grading. It's parent conferences sometimes. I don't hate them. Generally, parents are nice to me. It could be dealing with administration, like it's all these other things, paperwork, right? So, and I spend more time doing that than I do teaching students. So, find out, is that something you're willing to deal with? And research graduation rates, post-graduation earnings, that kind of stuff. Okay. Take an internship, like do some student teaching, do some teaching before you go and try to be a teacher or something like that. A lot of times, you're not aware of what the job entails. So, okay. Last, I think we're getting to the end here. So let's talk about going to college and not graduating, because this is another huge issue, right? What people forget is that if you go to college and drop out, you still have to pay for college. You might have $20,000 of tuition in debt, and now you have nothing to show for it. You have no degree. It doesn't help you at all. You wasted 2 years of your life or whatever, however long, and all then you wasted all that money. If you're going to go to college, make sure you're going to graduate. And yes, to some degree, you can't know for sure, but a lot of people should have known, right? Uh, for example, I think that this hybrid format really kind of shows a lot about, college. Um, in college, there's no one to hold your hand, as it says here. It's a lot of distractions, no one to hold your hand. No one makes you go to class. Um, here you have to go, right? If Even my freshman honor students, if I had their computers in front of them and then just told them to, pay attention to me, half of them would be playing video games. If you're going to choose to do that, why would you choose to go to school or take tests or study or, like if you're the type of person that's going to take the easiest route, what makes you think that all of a sudden, oh, I'm in college now, so now I'm going to pay attention? So, and again, college isn't for everyone. I have friends that are very successful that didn't go to college. There was a student I remember I had that came back and visited, and he was a first year working at BMW, mechanic, was making like 80 grand more than I was as a teacher. And I was like, oh, good for you. That's awesome. Do you want to spend the money if you'd be better off somewhere else? So, it's something to think about. I failed a couple of classes because I was missing them. I did that too. Um, I wouldn't do my homework, well, there's people that graduate from high school without ever writing an essay. I hope you're not in this class because we're writing a lot of essays. You'll fail and you won't graduate. uh, so, you know, and let's take a look. These are statistics. Like this isn't, I'm not making this stuff up. And this is old as, things fluctuate, but 68% of students at public universities fail to graduate in 4 years. 44% fail to graduate in 6 years. So if you look at Cal State stats, they keep stats and all this. After 4 years, 1 in 5 students had graduated. 4 years, 1 in 5, 20%. And 33 had dropped out in the first 4 years. A third of the students were gone, right? After 5 years, now we're jump up quite a bit. So a lot of students just took an extra year, okay, almost 50%. By 6 years, a little bit more, over 50%. But after that, like if you haven't graduated in 6 years, you're probably not going to. Good thing I made it, right? So, that's a ton of students. And those are the ones that went. There's a large number of students that just aren't going to make it. If that's you, don't waste your time, right? So you need to think about it, right? Community college, that's even worse. Over 70% of California community college students drop out. A third actually continue. And that's not to say that the third that continue, some of them get their AA, some of them move on to four-year college, but it's not to say they all graduated, right? That's just dropping out of community college. So there's statistics on what, much better success rate if you complete 20 credits in your first year, you complete English within 2 years, you complete math classes. So what can you do? Well, one issue is, identify the problem areas and fix them. So if you're procrastination, you're partying too much, you have issues with test taking, identify what the problem is and how can I do that better, But yeah, you have to be self-motivated. I made it through college. I had all kinds of like learning disabilities and like, attention problems, and it took me forever to read. I was a terrible reader, but I forced myself. I taught myself how to read. Um, but it was all me. Like there was no one holding my hand. There's no one that did it for me. There's no one that helped me. I just was like, I'm doing this, right? And I worked harder. I know that I worked harder than most students. I spent so much more time. I wrote like giant summaries to kind of remember what the heck I was reading and did all this extra work. But to me, it's worth it. So, there's ways to make this happen. But you have to identify the problems. As some people can't handle being too far away from home, go to a college that's closer then. Choosing a major is difficult for you, failed chemistry. I was going to be a pharmacy major. Then I switched to physical therapy, but then I also needed chemistry, failed it again. No, I think I got a D the second time. and then switched to economics. Got a C in that, barely passed. Then switched to math, did pretty well, but then calculus 4 kind of killed me, so switched to English, and I figured out, oh, okay, I enjoy this. This is interesting. So sometimes it takes a while. It's like, Mr. Kramer, you're depressing me. Like, why are you telling me all this? Listen, you have a very unique senior year. You have the ability here to learn how to self-motivate. You're gonna have trouble if you don't self-motivate. You have to do it yourself. No one's holding your hand. Now I will help you as much as I can. You send me drafts, I'll take care of it. But that's helping yourself. That's not me doing the work for you. That's you reaching out for help. That's you identifying an issue. I need help with my writing, so I'm gonna take steps to take care of it. That's what I mean by, you know, taking care of it. It's not doing everything yourself. You can, that's what I did. But a large portion of it is, um, reaching out and knowing when to ask for help and getting the appropriate help. Um, so this year, and this isn't just for this class, for all your classes, like you're going to have to do a lot of stuff on your own because you're not in class. You're much more like college where it's like you have to initiate and do the work. So this could be a good test ground for you, right? Also, the statistics are still there. If you earn college degrees, you're generally going to earn more. And you're like, Mr. Kramer, I'm just going to be a YouTube star. That's fine. Like, you know how hard they work? they're you talk to any YouTuber, there's 60 to 80 hours unless they are rich enough to hire someone to do all the editing and stuff. Um, so, but generally speaking, you still make more money if you have degrees. There's just certain jobs you can't get without the degrees, right? So that's what all of this shows. Um, yeah, so you are capable of getting into college and graduating from it if it's right for you, if that's what you want. Well, how do I know this? Because Marina High School has prepared you for college, despite how much you enjoyed all your classes. Yeah, I often talk to students who come back and generally are pretty honest. It feels like they're honest with me about like, oh, Mr. Kramer, this class, this ERWC, that's exactly what I did when I went to Cal State Fullerton, or Cal State Long Beach. We did the same thing. I felt really prepared. I had another student that came back at Golden West, like, oh yeah, this stuff was so easy. And these other students, from other schools are like, wait, what's going on? Um, now, that's not to say everyone that's graduated from Marina High School is ready for college. If you've been screwing off, if you haven't done the essays, you haven't actively tried to improve your writing, it's going to be, it's going to be tough. Doesn't mean it's too late for you. I was a late bloomer. I didn't figure out how to write till I was like 20, uh, 22. Anyway, so, you need help, come and get the help. I am here to help you. I will make you a better writer, but you have to send me a draft so I can, send you some notes, and then you have to actually put in the effort to improve. And you can do that with all your classes. Most of the teachers here are very ready to help. You just got to put the work in. So uh, that's my that's my pep talk. That's about as peppy as I get. Um, but I hope it's been informative. I hope there's at least a few things that, something to think about. The next assignment you're going to get into is you're going to do some research on your job choice or college that you're thinking about getting into. So let's continue this conversation about college and what's right for you, career stuff. And then we'll get into writing a personal statement. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions about anything, please, email, let me know. Okay, thanks.